Good morning. Welcome to the 71st Coffee with the Commissioner event. This morning, we're going to spend the entire morning coffee speaking directly with Eric Gilmore, our Director of Public Safety, and also with Wes Marino, our County Administrator. There's so many issues within the county in those two departments that I felt having a morning coffee with just these two gentlemen talking about all their issues and all the issues in the county would be good and beneficial. So we look forward to that. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce, well, they need no introduction. Wes Marino, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
And Eric Gilmore, our Director of Public Safety, is here as well. Good morning to both of you gentlemen. And Eric, we'll just start out real quick with you. We were just talking before we started here about the weather we're expecting tonight. Is there anything that folks need to know about for tonight, or any preparations they ought to be making?
Yeah, so this is the fifth week in a row that we've had inclement weather impact us, and it's usually around Wednesday, Thursday. So guess what? Wednesday, Thursday. Right now, it's looking like there's going to be 2 rounds of weather, is what they said a little bit earlier or later this afternoon, and that's going to impact mostly Southwest Mississippi and Southwest Alabama. And then the weather that'll impact us is what they're anticipating is a squall line that's probably going to fall apart before it gets to us. So we're under a marginal, and marginal is 1 out of 5. So, very marginal. We could have isolated flooding, so heavy rains, depending on where the cells form up at. A little bit of straight line winds. We got a little bit of a gusty wind this morning. Yeah, so we're looking between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. is when we'll see our impacted weather to Thursday morning. So tomorrow morning, we'll start seeing some of the weather. And a lot of people, the marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and high, I don't like the way the National Weather Service has done that. So that's why I try to 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, and then, 2 weeks ago, we had 4 out of 5, which was moderate. And moderate doesn't sound that threatening, but moderate.
It doesn't.
Is high. So I try to give them a perspective of what it is. 1 out of 5. What does that mean to us? So we've been very fortunate with the last 4 weeks of weather. Once it hits us, we get a little bit. We had the 18-wheeler to get the turnover on the interstate 2 weeks ago under the moderate, 4 out of 5. But once it gets east of us, they tend to have a couple of tornadoes touch down in Washington and Holmes County. So they did have tornadoes touch down. And then in the first week's weather up toward Porch Creek, they had the trailer park get hit with straight line winds. So there's been damage around us, but we fared pretty well. So, I'm pretty happy about that. And when we get the severe weather alerts, we want to get the message out to the public so they can take protective measures. And as you and I were talking, when they put out tornadoes, a 4 out of 5, what do people do? There are no cellars. Florida doesn't have cellars because of our groundwater table. So, what do you do? So if you live in a mobile home and, you've got somewhere you can go and stay with a friend that night or go to a safer structure, then we ask you to go do that if you've got availability to do that. But what you're supposed to do is if you get a tornado warning, not a watch means there's a potential for a tornado. A warning means a tornado is on the ground or has been radar indicated. That means you need to start getting to your safe place, which is an interior room of your house. And they even recommend getting in a tub with no window, get a room with no windows, get in a tub, put a mattress over you. So those are the things you can do to protect yourself. You even asked about the, bicycle helmets, and I'm sure they offer some level of protection. As we talked about, Jim Cantori wears one on the beach. So, he wears a batting helmet. So it very well could give you some level of protection. So anyway.
Well, but let me just ask, okay, because I've heard that before about having the mattress, but if you had the mattress over your head, the minute the wind blows when your house falls down, isn't that mattress going to fly? I just don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. How are you supposed to hold it when 100-mile-an-hour winds are pulling it like a sail?
For dear life.
I guess so, yeah.
So, but what you're trying to do is get an interior room of your house, and that way you're out of the windows because glass and everything breaking, of course. And the interior room is considerably the strongest part of the structure is you get all the supporting walls and everything around there. So, identify your safe spot and then where you're going to take your family through. So.
And tonight, is there any, we're in the 2 out of 5 or are we at the 3 out of 5?
We're 1 out of 5.
Okay.
1 out of 5.
So there's always a chance of a tornado or probably not?
There's always a chance here in Florida, especially in the springtime, early springtime. That's when we have our greatest chances for tornadoes. There's always a chance if a cell gets out ahead of the squall line, supercell forms, and that's where we typically see our tornadoes is ahead of the squall line. So there's always a chance, and that's why they always, National Weather Service has done that possibility of a tornado, so they always put that out there. So there's always a chance. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Tonight something could happen. So hopefully it'll be less than what we had a couple of weeks back. No tornadoes anywhere. All right. Well, very good. Thanks for that update. All right, Wes. Well, there's a lot going on in the county. Thanks for being here this morning.
Absolutely.
The biggest things that people ask me about is the status of our hiring. And I appreciate Crystal Dedura. She sent us out a staffing chart of kind of the departments, how many jobs are open and how many are filled, and a percentage vacant. That's really helpful for us. And I know you've got a job fair coming up. So what's the latest status on our hiring of employees and all?
So we had over 500 vacancies. And we met with Crystal the other day. We're down to about 465. So we are making some progress. I would say, when I talked to Chief Powell the other day, he had 22 interviews slated and scheduled by the 20th of this month that those interviews would take place. 11 of those interviews were for certified corrections officers that already have their state certification. So that's very positive. We're starting to see some movement in that direction. Our facilities department is gaining some traction. They've been able to bring some people on board. Other areas as well, even downtown, some of our staff downtown, we're getting starting to see a lot of applications roll in. And so we're positive about that. I still have one area in particular, well, two corrections, of course, but the road department, Public Works, we've not been able to crack the ceiling there yet. We've had a few applications, but not many. And I think it's because of the commercial driver's license that is required. And so last year, what we did in the beginning of summer is we took what used to be our seasonal help, and we made those permanent positions. So we have been able to fill those positions because they don't require CDL. Those are the guys that go out and mow and weed eat and patch potholes and those sorts of things. But we're really hurting for bodies right now out there. So I got to take a different look at that, coming at it from a different angle. I know the board has had some discussion most recently about maybe going Blue Arbor, like a temporary contract service where we might get paid a little more per hour if the folks don't want to take advantage of our benefits. That's something that we're looking at. Matter of fact, I spoke to Crystal about that yesterday afternoon. So we're still grinding away there. We did do something this year that we've not done yet or previously, and I'm kind of curious to see how it goes, is we put out 3 bid packages for holding pond mowing, simply because I know your office and all the offices get a lot of calls. That's a hot call that we get every spring, every summer. And we're down so many people, maybe it's time to take a look at contracting some of this work out, see if it's cost beneficial, see if it's more efficient. We can get 4 good cuts in the season. That's great. So we're kind of taking that approach with some of that work out there. And then on the beach, we're doing the same thing there, kind of what the board talked about, maybe upping the temporary rate, the Blue Arbor rate. We have seasonal folks out there as well, and we're paying $12.49 an hour. Naturally, people are not coming to work at the beach $12.49 an hour. They were a few years ago, but they're not now. And I got to tell you, it's a tough job out there. People don't realize that. They think, hey, I'm working at the beach. It's great. It is work. It is absolutely work. The crowds that hit out there on the weekends, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Blues on the Beach. And that group works every holiday. I mean, the beach is open 365 days a year. And so they are a little bit unique bunch, but they know how to get the job done, and they do a good job. Kurt Troll's out there with them now, and they're doing a great job. So we are seeing some progress in our hiring, and we have a few areas that we still need to work on. So we're going to get there. I'm confident we're going to get there. I think the market will change a little bit. I think as some of the interest rates may bump up a little bit. Maybe people may not see much free money moving forward, and so maybe the market will change for us a little bit. But it is absolutely a different job market than it was prior pandemic. We're having to pay higher wages, but it is what it is. If you want good people, you got to pay them.
You do have to pay them.
Do.
Well, you mentioned something that I've been talking about for a while, which is the average. Everyone's in a different circumstance. So you might have a spouse that has great benefits, and you might have that CDL license, or you might have that skill set, but you need a higher hourly wage. So I really like the fact that you and Crystal are going to explore that, because I think that helps us a lot. I mean, if because I'm hearing, we hear that in our labor negotiations. Well, benefits doesn't buy groceries, and we need more money. Well, then that's fine. If we can go to Blue Arbor and make it cost neutral to the county, and give you an extra $1.50, $2 per hour, if that makes the difference, I hope that we're exploring that for every department. It sounds like we are.
Absolutely.
How is that analysis played out? For instance, a CDL driver in the roads department, what if they come to the county and fully loaded with benefits? What do we offer them per hour?
So if you're entry level CDL driver, or CDL, I would say driver, CDL holder, because they do more than just drive dump trucks out there.
Mm-hmm.
We start them at $16.25 an hour.
$16.25.
That's our new rate. We were at $12.49 an hour. So everybody below $16.25 went up to $16.25. Then you had a trickle effect going up with operated threes, operated fours. So that's a pretty significant bump that we did from $12.49 to $16.25.
Mm-hmm.
But it still hasn't been enough to turn the tide. And so when you get to $16.25 an hour, that's $34,000 a year. Tack on, and you're probably at close to $50,000 a year with your benefits package.
So I guess the question there is, what rate of pay per hour can Blue Arbor give at that same cost point, at that same 50,000?
Yeah, I think we pay like a $3 fee on top of it. If I had a $16.25 Blue Arbor person, we would be paying Blue Arbor $19.25.
Gotcha.
Basically. So that's kind of how it is, and it kind of rides right in there pretty much, give and take a little bit. But that's typically.
So I think there's room. There's room in there. I think there's room in there to add $2. I mean, you guys will have to do the math, but I think if you sat down with a guy, or had someone call in and say, look, I'd love to take this job, I just can't do it for $16, but I could do it for $18.50. I think that's something that you guys might be able to make work, possibly.
Yep, absolutely, and we are moving in that direction. The careers extravaganza, we're calling it an extravaganza because that's what it's going to be. We're at the base center on the 23rd. I'm trying to tell folks, we don't have jobs, we have careers, and they're good careers. I started in '87. $5.07 an hour on a labor truck at the road department. That's where I started, how I started. And, I thought I had found a job, but I didn't realize at the time that I had found a career, and it's been good to me. I've done a lot of things with the road department. Talk about tornadoes. We responded to hurricanes, tornadoes, and been in the mix, been in the trenches, and was fortunate enough to go to engineering and get into the project management and bringing projects around. And, before you know it, you're 50, 56 years old, and you've got 35 years in, it seems like just yesterday. But
Wow.
I've always loved working for Escambia County. The county's been extremely, extremely good to me. And you get such a diverse place to be. There's so many things you can get involved in and do. And some of the most interesting things do seem to come around tornadoes or hurricanes. We've responded to landfill fires, ice storms, flooding. I mean, we've been in the middle of all of it, and so it is a very rewarding career. Serving the public it's not for the faint of heart. I tell you, it's not, but it is very rewarding.
Especially, you said not for the faint of heart, especially in your current position, right?
Absolutely. Well, the one thing about this position is you never know what's coming at you in a day. You never know what a day is going to bring. But I've always kind of liked that, being able to be flexible and move when you have to move, or change courses when you have to change courses. It's part of the challenge of the job, but it's like I said from the dais the other day, you can't be successful in and of yourself, especially in this position, But even in directors' positions and supervisor positions, you have to have good people around you. And you have to surround yourself with people with good work ethics, good attitudes. And that's what I tell people. If you can walk in the door with a smile on your face, tell me what to do, show me what to do, and I'll learn it, I'll do it. Those are the people you can work with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to segue in now because we have a question from one of our online viewers. You mentioned working with engineering, and I know that's one of the departments that's really, really struggled with staffing. And this person has asked, I heard that Joy Blackman is considering coming out of retirement and returning as the county engineer. Is this true? Are you at liberty to make any comments on that?
I would say we're having some discussions. I don't want to get too far ahead of
Sure.
her or the situation, but very possible.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause she has a lot of experience. She was here for many, many years, and I think that would be a good start at rebuilding and really building up the engineering department if she was able to come in. That would be really that would be good. Well, you mentioned the hiring fair, so once again, that's April 23rd at the Bay Center. Is that correct?
At the base center, it'll be all day, and we're going to have fire trucks, ambulances, heavy equipment. John Robinson is bringing some dogs and puppies over. You know, we'll try to do an adoption thing there. We're going to be doing a lot of Facebook Live. Cat Country is going to be with us during the afternoon.
Cool.
And you know, there's so much negativity that goes on, but there's a lot of good things that go on in Escambia County.
Yes, there
And
is.
so I call it a careers extravaganza, but it's also, hey, here we are. This is the good things that we do. And, you know, just come be part of the team. Come on, let's do it, you know.
Let me ask you, because I know the CDL guys, that's a difficult skill set. In fact, it's not just us, it's the school districts around the state and the panhandle. They can't get bus drivers. I mean, it's a big problem. Have we ever considered linking arms with George Stone or one of the career technical schools to train people? You know how we will do like, training for the corrections officers, and in exchange for them work, and we'll pay for it. Thinking outside the box and doing something like that. Have we done anything like that, Wes?
We have, some years back, the work annex had some trainers. It's a corrections facility, but they work hand in hand with the road department, and they had some trainers. They had a trainer and a tester. We built a whole driving range that was certified by the state for able to do testing. And it has become more and more difficult to navigate that avenue. It's been regulation after regulation. And I know it's about safety, and I certainly understand that, but it has really gotten difficult for us to do our own in-house training. So most recently, we reached out to Pensacola State College, who had the program. And so we're looking at paying for the tuition for the person to come on board. We'll pay for your tuition for a commercial driver's license. We'll pay for your training, but you got to commit. You got to commit at least 2 years. I would like to see 3 years, but at least 2. So we are looking at that. We have had discussions with Pensacola State College. It's about it.
I love that idea. How much does it cost and how long does it take? Wes, I think you'd have
$600, and it's about 8 weeks. So the first
8 weeks.
The first 8 weeks, we really wouldn't see productivity out of those individuals, but they would hopefully they would garner their CDL. And if they don't get it, well, they certainly have to pay us back. You know, they're going to sign a contract, and that's how we're going to move forward with it. So that is what we're doing there. And I've encouraged Rodriguez with ECAT to look at the same there at ECAT. You know, I know they were trying to stand up a training program, and it is really difficult. ECUA had a training program. They were we had an MOU with them where they were using our driving range, but it's even gotten really difficult for them as well. So it seems to be something that won't cost us extra staff hours to train people, so to speak. But if we can get them through the CDL class, and they get their CDL license, that would be huge. And so
a couple things on that. Obviously, we know that there's a tremendous need for bus drivers in the school districts locally. We know that ECUA has a hard time getting qualified drivers, and we know that we have a difficult time. Is that something that the entities like these Escambia County School District, ECUA, and the county could work together and do it in-house? I mean, is it just about having someone who could certify I mean, what would be the impediment to us doing it, or is it just much more efficient to do it at PSC?
It would be, at this point, there's a lot of rules and regulations that would be impediment for us to do it.
Okay.
Like I said, we used to have a tester and a trainer. Now the guy who tests or the guy who trains can't perform the tests. You have
Oh,
to have a
really?
three-person cab truck, which we don't have. It can get pretty expensive pretty quick.
Hmm.
But what we asked PSC is, listen, we've got the driving range. Could you come on site and do some of this training instead of them having to go to PSC? Now, if we can work something like that, maybe we could work with ECUA, maybe the school district, if it make it worth the while for PSC to come on our site and
Sure.
work through it and train that way. So that's kind of some of our thoughts and some of our.
And again, it's 8 weeks. And what's the approximate cost to the county to get someone through that 8 weeks and get them?
It would be the tuition. I think it's about $2,600, $2,500.
Okay.
So
Well
that's,
worth it.
I mean, it's not a cheap endeavor, and
Right.
that's kind of the thing. A lot, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of the CDL testing, you think it's driving, but it's actually what they call a walk around, a walkthrough, and you have to touch the tires, tell the depth of the tread, what it's supposed to be. You have to touch the lights, what you're looking for, pop the hood, touch this piece, touch that piece is what we're looking for. It's almost like memorizing the script, to become quite honest with you. If you can memorize the script, the driving part, you folks usually don't have too much of a problem with.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to continue to explore that. I think if we could do something like that. So this person, Joe Public, doesn't really know what he wants to do, says, hey, I'll sign up. You train me and I'll come to work for you for a couple of years. He goes through the 8 weeks of training. Is he on the clock? Is he getting paid while he's training, or does the paychecks?
Yeah, no, he'd be on the clock.
He'd be okay. So he's getting paid while he's training.
Yeah, if we bring them in and the class is already started, or a class is fixing to start, or maybe they're 2-3 months from starting, we can still use them to do other duties. Even though they don't have a CDL, they can still pick up trash, they can still mow grass. We just have to get them to the equipment.
No, what a great deal. And then the minute 8 weeks later you're done, then you're driving either a dump truck or you're using your license, and you're making $16.29, $16.25 an hour, benefits in the pension plan. I mean, right? I mean,
Absolutely. And you have a career path.
You got a career path.
You come in equipment operator 2, then you promote to operator 3, you promote to operator 4, you promote to field supervisor from there. From there, you go to a division manager. I mean, there is a career path out there at the road department at Public Works.
Wow.
And so, it's a great place. I mean, it's not a perfect place, but it's a great place to be. If you're
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that's an opportunity that's out there, and I'm so happy we're telling that story. I think that's fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on out of the jobs and the issues of employment over to the jail. I know that's an issue that I've taken a personal interest in. Appreciate you bringing the plans and the updates. But Wes, is there an update to the most recent update, like where we're at with getting our security engineer?
We are in the process of hiring the security engineer. It has to go on the street for, I think, 15 days or something, like 10 or 15 days, and minimum it has to be on the street. Then we rank the firms, and then we select the firms, and we bring it to the board for a purchase order. So that's really the slower part of this process. But we are into it. I mean, we've got it. It's on the street. We'll be opening up the RFPs probably in the next 2 weeks, I would think. And then we'll rank and select and issue a purchase order. And then we'll really be in motion and go from there.
A lot of folks are going to ask, though. A lot of folks would ask, why wouldn't you just use the CCNA and utilize a firm that's qualified or that could subcontract it out and do an expedited procurement using the Competitive Consultants Negotiation Act, which allows for A&E and engineering firms? Why would we have not gone that route? Not trying to put you on the spot, but
that's kind of what we're doing with the RFP. we're following that procurement process, and that's really what we're doing. We're selecting the firm, selecting the engineer.
Okay.
And so it's, we've done it a little bit more expedited. Some of your engineering projects stay on the street for 30 days. So we minimize the amount of days that this has to be on the street so that we can get it in and get going. I think once we get them on board, that's our next big step. And then we start seeing some movement. And,
All right.
it's a little different at the jail. It's, it's not like, okay, I got 10 beds here, I got 10 people here, I can move them. It's
Right.
not quite that easy. You have different classifications. You have male inmates, female inmates, juvenile inmates. It doesn't really match up bed to bed, body to body. So it is a bit of an iteration that they go through a couple times a week to work that out, to see where they can move folks. But anybody that we can move, we do move them. And the other day, our population was 1,290 something, and then the next week it was 1,400 and something.
Well, 1,200, I like that number. That's a good number.
I like that trend. I was hoping we could continue it, but warm weather and the weekends.
Yeah, people get in trouble. They
More
do.
people out and about.
All right. Well, so the Fairfield building, once we get the security engineer on board, we're gonna bring them over to the Fairfield building. It seems like that's where we're gonna focus most of.
That's our main focus. That's where we can house most people.
Okay. And so what about the L Street facility? I know you're working with the sheriff. What's
Yep.
the status of that?
As soon as I get the security engineer on board, we're going to go over there and take a look. And this is what I told the sheriff, and I'm actually meeting with him today.
I am too, right after this. So this is good.
Great. Great. More communication is better. So when I told the sheriff is, hey, we'll get this guy on board, we'll let him look at this building. If he thinks this is really not a building that needs to be used or hardened in this capacity, we'll certainly back away and pursue something else. I'm always happy to work with the sheriff. I know he has a lot of initiatives. He has a tough job, but we're always happy to work with him. And he was very gracious last time I met with him. And I expect that to be the tone as we move forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I mean, just running the numbers. I mean, if we can get 400 into Fairfield after we harden it, we've got room for 840 in the jail. But I think that's like Lumen and I both discussed at the last meeting. That's a false number. You can shoehorn 1,000 in there. By the way, we had mentioned a surge plan. Has Rich Powell been able to put anything like that together? If imagine nothing else.
Yeah,
except
we're trying to work hard on that. We talked about it last week. It was. So we are here. We are looking at ways, and I keep saying the security engineer, but there are some modifications I think we can make in the new facility that would allow us to move some of those maximum security inmates over, and still be safe for the officers.
Yes.
So we've got some thoughts and ideas, and so we're going to be talking about all of those. But we're going to put something into action. We're not just going to sit on our hands. We just can't afford to do that. But
no,
it will take a bit to get to the point of where we're actually ready to implement.
No, and let me just compliment you right now, Wes. I mean, working with you has been a breath of fresh air. I'm just going to be honest. I feel like when we talk, you go out there and you make things happen. And look, for us, that's all that people want. They don't care about it's like, what have you done for me lately? Like the salesman, they don't care what you've done. What are you doing for me right now? And so, when previously it was very, very difficult, but I just appreciate the way you move things quickly. And I know that my counterparts do as well. You pick up the phone. I'm not going to name names, but others didn't. And, they're not here anymore. And that's a good thing. But you pick up the phone and you're very responsive, and we appreciate that. So let's talk about the Lillian boat ramp. That's coming up. Any idea on when we're going to break ground on that? I know it's
very, very soon. We got a notice from Treasury. That's a whole nother iteration when you going through Treasury, like with Restore. Hey, we've got our plans, we've got our permits, and so we're going out to bid. We're ready to issue a purchase order, and then the Treasury says, well, we got to review the plans. Well, okay, how long do you need to review the plans? it always is longer than what they seem to think it's going to take them. And then they want to review the contract. So when you get, even when you come out going to bid, competitive bid, now we want to review the contract. So now you have to send the contract to them. And so what I asked, when I was talking with Chips, and I said, can't we just send our contract, our standard contract? Can we just send that to Treasury and get a blessing? So this is the contract we're going to use. I mean, that seems
Common
logical.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Common sense.
seems logical. Why should we have to wait every single project for you to review the contract, the same contract you've already reviewed? So it's been a little bit of frustration there in that regard. But we did get some positive news from Treasury 2 weeks ago, I think, about the boat ramp. So it's going to move. You're going to start seeing it moving pretty quick.
Okay, good. I know a couple big issues in District 1 that are coming up actually to celebrate. We're going to be opening our library soon within a couple of months. Where you and I and facilities, we're going to do a walkthrough, and I'm going to take a lot of pictures and videos. I'm going to put that on my blog, and so folks can see where we're at. But that's coming in a couple months. We're also breaking ground on the Beulah Fire Station. Now, have we gotten all the permits and everything that we needed from ECU? I know there was one permit we were waiting on.
Yeah, I believe we have worked through all of that, and
Okay.
we'll issue the purchase order. Came in.
And
Came in
I have
higher.
that. I'm sorry.
Came in higher than was estimated, of course, but
Of course.
but we'll find the money. We'll bring it forward. Issue the purchase order, and that'll be a huge thing in Beulah. The Beulah Volunteer Fire Station out there has appreciated a very rich history. Tommy McNair, Steve McNair, Jody McCraney, some of those men, just men of character from back in the day that kind of stood that department up or had a huge hand in standing it up. And it appreciates a very rich history. So it'll be great to be able to break ground on the new facility there.
And on the day we break ground, I'm going to break news. I've been speaking with the relatives and the family of Dwayne Bradshaw, who was our volunteer assistant chief, who was unfortunately killed in the line of duty out there. And it's my intention, probably going to break a little news here, but it's my intention to whatever process we need to utilize as the county commission, I want to name that facility in memory of Dwayne Bradshaw, and also for Steve McNair, who helped build that and worked there for 5 decades. We call it McNair Bradshaw or Bradshaw McNair. I'm going to bring that forward, and I have every intention as the commissioner in that district to name that facility for those 2 men. It takes men like that putting their lives on the line to keep our community safe, and I believe they deserve that honor. So I'll leave that, Wes, to you and Eric and the legal staff, whatever we got to do. But I've spoken with the relatives and the family of Dwayne Bradshaw, and I have every intention of bringing that forward. Your thoughts on that?
That, I think it'd be great. I really do. It might, maybe I'm a little partial because I've been associated with Beulah, nearly all my life in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But having the benefit of being able to know the McNair family and the McCraneys, and you just know what kind of people they really are and were, and I think their legacy will live on through that fire department.
Absolutely. So anyway, so that's what's going to happen. And hopefully I can get support on the board. I believe that I will. Great men who've manned that station through the years. And we've got a daytime staff. And Eric, I got to give you kudos. That daytime staff out there at Beulah, they have done a great job. I've had people compliment me. In fact, there was an issue on the interstate the other day. They were the first team there. It was in the news. Engine 2 got there first. So how's that been going, having that daytime staff out there at Beulah?
It's been going great. Beulah is becoming just as busy as everybody in the Corps right now. The Corps, we consider Inslee, Brent, and those areas. So, having those guys out there in the daytime has been a tremendous help. Beulah's their call load has been increasing throughout the years, and it was much needed. So good call on that. And the guys and the guys that are out there working, very good guys, work well with the volunteers. It is a great partnership out there, great meshing. We're ECFR. No matter if you're a volunteer career, we're ECFR. And those guys take that to heart. They know that, and we're one department. But it has been working great. So having those guys out there in the daytime has been wonderful.
Have the volunteers numbers out there at that station, have they increased at all? I mean, have they been, is it, I guess I'm hearing that it's working well with the volunteers covering the nights and the weekends and then the daytime professional paid staff coming in. That's all working real well out there?
It is working well. So as far as the volunteers coming in, we are getting more volunteers now. So our volunteers that are coming out there, I think I get the emails congratulating people who have gone through the PAT test, done their background, and now they're in the training process. So they're trainees. They can't, fight fire or do anything yet, but they're in the trainee phase. So, but I do know that we're sending 15 volunteers to Ocala next month for Florida weekend. So we're sending, and I do believe some of those are from Station 2. So we have increased, we're increasing staffing levels on the volunteer side. Seven's picked up some, Beulah's definitely picked up some. So that's exciting that we're getting more and more, we're getting more volunteers coming in. So
that's awesome. Well, that's great. Also, next, I want to talk about Wes, I sent you a frantic text yesterday afternoon about the America's Cup. We had the TDC meeting yesterday, and this was a surprise to me. And the news media was there, so someone tipped them off. But there is the opportunity, the potential of this team. This is like America's Cup sailing. A lot of folks, it's very obscure. A lot of folks are not attenuated to it, but it's every 3 years they do it. America had the monopoly on it for like a century, and we got beat in 1983. But long story short, the team that has the best chance at beating New Zealand has been training here in Pensacola. They've been coming here, bringing 100 employees. They say our bay is perfect, and they brought a really intriguing presentation yesterday, and they want to train here in Pensacola. And there's a chance if they beat New Zealand that they could bring the America's Cup here to Pensacola. So it was very intriguing. I certainly want my counterparts to hear this presentation. So Wes, I threw that to you in a frantic text, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow at our committee of the whole. But can you guys imagine if we had the America's Cup in Pensacola Bay? And everyone was saying it's the perfect size bay. It's big. There's no reefs. There's no artificial obstructions. That would be huge for our area. That would be
fantastic. That would really be fantastic. There was some training going on maybe last summer, summer before last. We saw like a black sailboat or catamaran type boat that was just flying across the top of the bay out there. You could watch them go. It was really something to watch. And so this would be a great thing for our area, a great thing for our community. Pensacola is well known for aviation and military and our beaches, and this would just be one more thing to bring to the area that just really.
Well, I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that it definitely got the support of the TDC members, and we're
sure.
Apparently it's who knew? There's no prize for winning this. There's no monetary reward, and it costs like $100 million to field the team. You've got to have people making sales, engineers, all these other things. They say these boats with a 10-knot wind can go 50 miles an hour. I can't wait. I'm going to go out there and watch them. They're committed to coming here to train. And if they win, that to me is the question. And I asked that question in the meeting yesterday. I said, well, wait a minute. If they go down there and beat New Zealand, wherever they're going to do it, wherever this next America's Cup is, could we get it in Pensacola? And the answer was yes. So I look forward to having that discussion tomorrow. Hey, I got to ask you this question, Wes. It's on my list and people have asked me about it, even though I'm not in a rush for it. What is the status of the administrator's search? Where are we at with that?
So we've communicated back and forth some with the Gov HR USA. That's the firm that's doing the search. They have submitted some textual language to put in some advertisements in a brochure. We have kind of tweaked that some and streamlined it a little bit. We sent it back. We have sent them our budgetary information, our number of employees. We have sent quite a bit of information about the organization to GovHR. And I think the last schedule timeline that they sent, I think it was last week, may be ready to present candidates in late June, maybe, or maybe July. So that's that's where it's at.
June or July, we would have a number of candidates or at least presented. Okay. Yeah. Like I say, I'm not in a rush. I believe everyone works very well with you. I think you're doing a great job. I'm just not in a rush. And, but
Commissioner, I'm not in a rush either. So just.
right on.
echo that
Thank you,
sentiment.
Eric. Wow. Well, yeah, so that's good to know. The budget, obviously the budget's coming up. And,
Yep.
I've been having almost like weekly meetings with Stephen Hall. As I've mentioned in a couple different public meetings, I'm looking at a couple different strategies to help fund public safety with a little extra money without increasing the year-over-year millage rate. We're looking at different things. Unfortunately, kind of running into some legal challenges that I wasn't aware of on some of the things. So, but just wanted to ask your thoughts, Wes, on this year's budget. It looks like our tax roll is going to go way up. Have we had any kind of indication from Chris Jones about where we'd be in terms of a percentage increase over last year on our tax roll?
Not quite yet. I know Stefan's had some discussions. I don't have that percentage at the moment, but hopefully we'll have it within the next upcoming weeks. All the departments are working on their budgets. Operationally, the things that go up, are like for the road department, cost of asphalt goes up, cost of pipe has gone up, cost of all your materials are going up across the board. Public safety is the same. They've seen price increases in some of the supplies, but we're working to keep those as minimal as possible. We see what we're spending in different line items, and we see can we increase it or can we cut it? And so we're trying to cut the things we can cut, minimally increase the things that we have to increase. And then we have the personnel side of the house, which we're carrying 400 and something vacancies. I would say that equates to roughly $13 to $15 million, more than likely. So we know we have that number, but the question is, where is that fine tuning point? Even with Public Works. So if I won't say we're being extremely overly successful being 50 people down, but can I be really successful with 25 people or 30 people and not 50?
Right.
I think right now, the answer you would get from some of the division managers out there goes, yeah, we'll take 30 more people. Even if we don't get the last 20, we'll take the first 30. So,
Right.
those are the discussions that we'll be having as we move forward departmentally with the budget.
Hey, I got a question from an online viewer this morning. I'm patiently waiting on answers to questions I continue to ask at the public forum. Will there be a full restoration project for the Bayou Marcus Creek Tributary B? Will our commissioners make flooding a #1 priority? Well, I'll answer that one. D, that's something that I did commit to helping with some discretionary money. I went back and watched that video, but I never committed to fully fund the full stream restoration out of my discretionary money. I think if you go back, you'll see that clearly. I saw the email that you sent to the governor and everyone else. Listen, it's about $250,000 project. There's a blockage on Pontiac. I'm working with the engineering department right now. They're looking at it. It's not my district anymore, but as I did say, I'm willing to help, but a complete restoration of that stream was never something that I committed to funding. It's never something that's even been scoped. We have no idea what that would cost. It would require a ton of environmental studies, impact studies. But for now, what I've committed to is to help clear that blockage in that stream, which will greatly assist that community, Windrose, in some of the flooding issues they've had. So there's your answer. It's the same answer as it was 5-6 months ago when I said that, but engineering is looking at that right now. In fact, I spoke with Tim Day very recently about that. So there's the answer to that question for you. So we'll see you at the next meeting too. All right. Will you pass along the need for reflectors on Bower Road? Because of the forest areas, it's very dark at night. Wes, I get a lot of complaints about Bower. I get more complaints about Sorrento Road. I know Sorrento is a state road, but is there anything we can do? It's such a dangerous road. I had the TP meeting later today. I'm going to talk about it. What can we do on Sorrento Road to improve the safety out there?
Well, I know the DOT does have a project on a portion of Sorrento.
It's only the intersections there, though.
That's right. That's right. Lighting is an issue. It's dark. It is extremely dark. Bower is dark as well. I know a couple of weeks ago you asked about a light in the intersection to go into the Southwest Sports Complex.
Yeah, and that's one, I'll say it, I'm willing to help pay for that. I paid for some out of my discretionary before, along Mobile Highway, where we had a fatal wreck and a West Florida high school baseball student was killed. I will pay for that, Wes. If we can make that happen.
Yeah, we are pushing it forward. Chris Phillips, our transportation engineer, has got that, and he is driving that forward. So
Okay,
you
good.
can see a light at that intersection.
Good. Well, I can't believe how fast this time's going. I have to transition over to Eric. Eric's been sitting patiently, and I got a list of questions for him too. But so Eric, let's talk about the Ambubus. We had funded that. That's a cool deal. Have we got that? Is that outfitted and in Escambia County now?
Not yet. So we went out for bid for a company to retrofit it for us. We have the kit and everything's in our possession. Is just getting the company to retrofit it. We've got the bids in. We've got the vendor identified, and it actually should be shipped here in the next week or so. So it'll be shipped. It'll take about 4 weeks to get it retro, and then we'll have it back. So we're looking the end of May, hopefully getting it back, or early June.
That's fantastic. Now, when you get that, are we going to have our CMR department do a blast?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. We're going to have a show and tell on it. What
Awesome.
what its purpose is. What took so long is, it was a used school bus, which we appreciate the school district giving it to us. So it spent several weeks in the shop going through it and fine tuning it, make sure everything was up to speed. So we put a little bit of money into it mechanically to make sure it was sound, because you definitely don't want an Ambu bus breaking down on you.
No, no.
So.
That'd be a nightmare. So also, hey, I want to ask you, because I get this question a lot. So all these standalone ERs, that's the new business model that's happening. And I know the one at Perdido Bay was we'd have to shut down the street for the helicopters to land. They were making money off the transfers. What's the status of that? I haven't heard complaints on it lately. Are they still shutting down Blue Angel and 98 to bring in helicopters, or are we helping them enough with our dedicated? What's the status of that?
So we are helping them enough. So the interfacility truck is taking care of that need. The truck we have, Sacred Heart put their freestanding on 9 Mile Road, so it's up and operational. West Florida put their second freestanding on 9 Mile Road, and then West Florida's Perdido Bay. So the interfacility trucks are handling those freestanding EDs. And the only time a helicopter has to land if there's something major critical, and a facility truck, we only have one facility truck on during the shift.
Wait, Eric, that's what I thought too. And then I asked for the records. They actually flew in a helicopter, a person who had a UTI, urinary tract infection, and another person who had some sort of an ankle injury. So, that's
just recent.
They flew him on the helicopter. Yes.
Recently,
I think it was like a year and a half ago. I mean, it was during
okay.
When there was all kinds of money. There was some kind of money deal where they were making money on that, and we were spending money moving the ambulance, moving the fire truck,
fire trucks.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe the money spigot got turned off. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I think no one cares if you get stuck in traffic because some guy's life's on the line. He got a motorcycle wreck. No, but when it's a UTI and some kind of an ankle sprain, that I can't use the word I would use. It makes people angry, right?
Right.
And
so to let you know, before we put the facility trucks on, yes, that was happening. I could tell you that was happening.
Yeah.
The fire department was going out there sometimes 3 times a day to land a helicopter for those minor things, like you said, UTI and everything like that.
And we never got a dime. For that.
No. And it takes 2 fire trucks because you got both lanes of traffic. And now those guys are tied up and they can't respond to what they need to. So since the helicopters have been minimalized since we put the facility truck on. The only time recently that the helicopters landed is there was a major, life-threatening issue, and it warranted a helicopter, and that's that here recently. So we have had to shut the road down. So
I know that you were formulating some kind of a deal, but now tell me how well that's working. I know that we had a dedicated unit that was doing that, and that's actually working out to our benefit financially. Explain how that works for us.
Yes. So those patients who go to a freestanding ED and they get taken in and they determine they need to be transferred to the main hospital, the main campus, the hospital pays for their, transfers them out, and the hospital pays that bill. So that's guaranteed money that the ambulance makes. So there's facility trucks, they're stationed nearby, and, Perdido Bay was the only one we had here for a while. So they would just sit at Perdido Bay. Now the facility trucks have hard rules. So if there's a cardiac arrest in that area or mass casualty incident, those facility trucks are pulled off from the freestanding because they can wait now. We have a much emergent need. So there are rules for the facility trucks. They don't just sit around and do nothing and wait for a freestanding. If
Sure.
there's a Delta level call, cardiac arrest in the area, they have to go get it. If a mass casualty comes out, they have to go get it. But so the truck was dedicated to the facility to transfer from Perdita Bay over to West Florida Hospital. And it takes about an hour and 5 minutes. By the time you get there, take the patient, get the paperwork, take them over to West Florida, and then return back. So, and they were sending out 6 to 7 or 5 to 6 patients a day.
Wow.
That's a lot of people turning and burning. And now we've got the other freestandings that have stood up. And then now we also have all these other, select specialty from the hospital, select specialty. So that facility or that division or those trucks are kind of taking care of that need and leaving our 911 trucks alone. And 911 trucks can go out and do it. Now they get behind, and the 911 trucks, if there's no calls going on, they'll take a couple of trucks and they'll go catch up real quick, but then they're available for 911 calls.
No, that's great. I think, and let me compliment you publicly. I mean, you have done a fantastic job with public safety. I mean, you kind of helped diffuse some issues, some tension between the volunteers and the firefighters. David Torcell coming in with EMS and some of the protocols, getting the medical, what do you call that? The protocols, getting the protocols written and updated. We were using protocols from like 2011. I mean, your division has really been a bright spot. I mean, you've got a few people online like, oh, they're holding a call today or whatever. Explain why that happened. I mean, I think we're doing much better these days in terms of staffing. EMTs, we're fully staffed, right? On our EMTs.
On our EMTs.
Paramedics, we're still a little short.
Yes, sir.
But
no, absolutely. We still hold calls. We're not holding them as frequently as we used to, and we're not holding them as long as we used to. And we do prioritization. And we, if it's a Delta level call, we'll put the immediate need to it immediately. If it's an alpha level back pain or, so-and-so fell through
headache,
and now they want an ambulance to go to the hospital. And if we don't have a unit available or a Delta level call comes out, they'll go get the Delta level call. Sure. So we still prioritize. We're not holding as many, but we still hold calls. Talked to Chief Torcell yesterday, and when he got here, I think we were 19 or 20 paramedics down is where we were. So we had 19 or 20 paramedic vacancies. We just did a big hiring. We just went through another hiring process. We hired some relief. And when these next group of paramedics get on board and they go through their orientation and onboarding process, will be 7 vacancies in the paramedic side. So that's the least amount of vacancies we've had in paramedics for a while once these paramedics come on board. So we're pretty excited about that. And of course, the more medics we get on the road, the more trucks we get on the road, the less calls we hold. Some days, I'm going to tell you, it feels like the whole county calls in at one time.
I know.
It's the law of averages. It happens. We can't predict when it's going to happen to bring, 5 more trucks on if we need to. For once in a while. And unfortunately, what we're seeing a lot of here is overdoses. We're seeing a lot of overdoses that is taking a need away from other citizens. They ran several last week by 9 o'clock. One morning last week by 9 o'clock, they had ran 5 overdoses in the morning.
It's terrible. Terrible.
I
don't want to get political, but it's being manufactured in China. It's synthetic fentanyl. It's running through the southern border, which is open, porous like Swiss cheese, and it's coming and it's affecting our citizens in Escambia County. This is the federal government. This is a federal government problem, and they're not doing their jobs. That's what I'm going to say. I love it when I hear the people beating their chest, about things that don't mean anything, like ghost guns. Why don't they solve a problem that means something? These are citizens dying. We're deploying Narcan. Health and Hope Clinic is deploying Narcan. They've already saved 50 people. How many resuscitations last year did we have with Narcan? Wasn't it like 500 or something? It's a federal, and they're not doing the job.
It was more than that. I don't know the actual number, but it was more than that. I mean, I think we're over 500 right now. We're on track to beat last year. When I talked to Chief Torcell,
that's not something we want to win. That's the contest we don't want to win.
No, we don't want to win that. You're absolutely right. But I mean, you think about how many overdoses we have to go to. That takes a truck away from somebody having a cardiac arrest or
exactly,
or something like that. That's we can avoid an overdose by, just cutting off the drugs and people, know what the person having a cardiac arrest or stroke, we've got to go get those people. So, but we
And
spend
they're cutting all the different drugs. They're cutting all the drugs, fentanyl, and you're taking something, you don't even know what it is. It's just, and I love the people that say it's a victimless crime. You're hearing about the victims. The victim is the guy with a heart attack that can't get an ambulance fast enough because we got 3 people that got hit with laced fentanyl in their drugs. I love people that say that. They're just very naive. And that's me being very polite. I'd love to say a lot more about that, but you guys are doing a great job. Fentanyl is a problem. It's coming through the southern border. It's being manufactured in China, and it's running right through into Escambia County, and it's counties across this country. And meanwhile, they want to talk about things that mean nothing. Anyway, not going to pontificate. Let's talk about quickly, because we're running out of time. Wow, what a great day. I appreciate you both and your time and your answers to these questions. Look, fire staffing is an issue that's going to cost a lot of money, and you and I have talked about it over and over. We've applied for the SAFER grant. It used to be 3 years free, final year like 75%, and then you're off and on your own. Now it's 3 years, and first 2 years, what, 66%, 2/3? Tell us how that's changed. I mean, that puts us on the hook a lot sooner for a lot more money.
Yes. No, you're right. So it used to be 5 years. It's 5 years. The first 2 years is 100%. Then it went down to 75, 50, and then, 25, then you had it. Now 3 years. So we don't get 100% matching. It's 75%, 75% the federal government picks up. And then we go down to 45% at that point. And then 4th year, we pick up the tab. So we had to come up with 25% the first 2 years right out the gate. So that's unfortunate. It used to be 100% the first 2 years of a 5-year program, but now they cut it down to 3 years. We've heard that some of the people who have applied for SAFER grant throughout the country, the 3-year program, that the federal government came back and said, look, we'll give you 100% for 3 years. We'll give you 100% for the first 2 years. So they could do that. We don't know. But right now, as the grant, as it's written, is 75, 75, and then 45 is what the federal government pays out in the 3-year cycle. So, but we have heard of them paying 100%. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We've applied for it. That's all we've done. We got asked permission from the board to apply for a grant. All we've done is apply. We're waiting to hear back and see what we get.
And so the board will have another crack at it. If they come back and say, you won, and it's 50% for the first year, and then we'll pay you 25% for, so in other words, if it's something that's going to cost us a lot of money, we could always turn it down, right? That's because the board in the past, I believe it's 2009, looking back at it historically, turned it down once before because they saw that it was an unfunded liability in the out years, which is what it would be now. But in talking about your budget, and this is a question kind of to both you and Wes, we've had some challenges with our billing software. We've had some challenges with our billing. In speaking with Stefan during my frequent meetings with him, David Torcell and you and your Tamika and everyone else is doing a great job with the billing. It looks as though you've got about a $4 million cushion in your EMS reserve fund. Something's working. Wes, is that because of the software we purchased, or are we just doing a better job of getting those bills out?
It's a combination of the two. It is a new software, and I'd have to rely on Eric to call the name of it. I can't remember off the top, but it is.
Is it Zelle?
Yeah, it's like we get the bills out like the next day.
Are we doing that, Eric?
Yeah.
Yes, the turnaround for the billing is a lot faster. The combination of the personnel, we've got good personnel. When we the last transition went to Zoll and then went back and all that, we really did our homework when we looked at the software this time. We really looked at ImageTrend. We looked at all the vendors, but I didn't want egg on our face again after what happened last time. So the group made darn sure that we vetted it fully, that it met all aspects of what we needed. And it actually works through the hospital system too. So it actually gives information back and forth from our billing department to the hospitals where the patient goes to. So we pick up a patient who's OD'd and they're unconscious, and to us, they're John Doe. Well, the hospital gets them, they get alert, they actually start getting their information. And then when they fill it fills in on our side too.
That's awesome.
So we're sharing information. So
that's fantastic.
It's positive things. So it's a combination of the people we've got coding. We got a good billing staff. Chandra over there does a fantastic job. Tamika does a great job of keeping things in line and in check. And the software, the road crews, because it starts with those guys. Once they get out there, if they don't put good data in, then we don't get good billing processes. So the crews out in the field makes it, we tried to do something that was pull down menus, drop boxes to make it a lot quicker for the guys in the field. And so you have less errors and you got less discrepancies. And when you get less of that, then you can bill much more streamlined and more appropriately.
Absolutely. This is kind of a gear shift, but we had a question about impact fees. And one of the things I campaigned on was bringing the issue of concurrency to the board. George online has asked me the question. George, I have brought that on a number of occasions, and there's just no appetite for it. I have no support. The last time I brought it, we had Christine Fanchi bring a transportation mobility fee in the place of concurrency, and it ran into a brick wall. One of the things that I would say is most communities do have one form of impact or another to make the developers pay for the infrastructure as they go. And that's something that I generally support if it's done properly, like concurrency would have been, but I've brought it a number of times and I have not had support for it. So I can't keep beating a dead horse. There isn't support. I think eventually if in the near future, we need to look at radically revising our land development code, because it does allow for some things to happen that puts us in a position where the infrastructure isn't prepared. And I've lived that out in Beulah, believe me, George, I've lived it, living in Beulah and seeing it. So with respect to OLF 8, we're going to develop that, and there will be some form of impact fee, MSBU, enhanced cost, something on anything that's developed on that field that's not related to job creation. I've said that. I believe I have support for that. That'll help fund our daytime fire crew out there and any kind of follow-on crew. But impact fees, there's just not a lot of support. We see what happens in Santa Rosa County. They had a very genuine need. The school board over there begged them to put it out. They put it out. It faced legal challenges, and it eventually died. Now they got to turn the money back in. So it's a tough issue. I feel like I kept my word. I brought it multiple times. You can look up the record, but it's just not something that enjoys the support of this board at this time. So just wanted to get that out. We're running out of time, guys, but man, a couple other things I wanted to get to, if you guys can give me just a couple more minutes. Talking about staffing the fire, Eric, it's going to be expensive. I know you have a plan. You and Chief Catrambone, who's done a good job, have a plan. My issue is I'm not going to put a year over year tax increase on existing county property owners. Now, I have a plan to do a partial lifting of half of that MSBU and then inserting an MSTU, which I believe would grow over time at a higher rate than what seems to be more of a static MSBU. It only grows a little bit as new development comes in. But I think there's got to be some radical changes to the way public safety is budgeted if we don't want to raise taxes on our residents. And I think it includes incorporating volunteers, very important. It includes changing that MSBU formula to a partial MSBU that everyone pays on the residential side. It wouldn't mess with the commercial side, with an MSTU that the first year would match the revenue. And then on the out years, of course, that rate would stay static for the MSTU, which would generate more revenue than the MSBU would. But it also is going to entail that some of your excess revenue or that you generate, because you're the closest thing to an enterprise fund, Eric, that we have with EMS, is going to have to roll over to fire and help them. They do a lot to support the EMS. They roll for a lot of calls. They can't transport, but they do a lot of work, and their labor costs are going up. So anyway, those are my ideas. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I totally agree with you. And talking to Chief Torcell last week, so we're looking at trying to get ALS 360. ALS 360 will provide all the medical equipment, the life packs, the monitors, and everything that fire needs. So he's willing to pay for all medical needs, cost, and everything for fire department. And he's actually going to throw money at the paramedics. So he's going to pay for their incentives. So Torcell is going to pay for, if you're a fire medic, he's going to pay for your fire medic, for your incentives. So he's paying for that. So we're working on an MOU right now and drafting something up. We're working with Wes on that. So yeah, Torcell is going to actually invest in the fire department on the medical side to try to beef those guys up and get those guys and build those guys out. So he's working on that. But we also want to hire more paramedics and get more trucks on the road. So
Yes.
it's a balance. So, we need that. We also need that money for staffing levels increase in EMS, because we do know that we do need more trucks on the road. 15
Yep.
trucks in the daytime and 12 trucks at night, or 10 trucks at night is not going to get it. We do need to get up to 20 trucks. So we have to increase our staffing levels. So we'll fine tune that, see where that all breaks out at. But Chief Torsells, he's dedicated. He's gonna commit to the fire department. He's gonna invest in them and try to help them out and get that system up over there. And he's gonna pay for it.
And I appreciate your time. Final question. It's kind of selfish on my part, but Ramsey Beach over there off of 98 and Bauer, that area, we lost Station 20. We've made attempts to purchase the old Station 20. The new owners don't want to sell it. We've looked at a pole barn or some kind of structure on a property at Southwest Sports Complex. Don't know the feasibility of that. We've had a lot of staff turnover. I'm tracking it because those residents down there have been hit over the head with giant property tax increases. It's my understanding we're working on a property swap or a property enhanced use lease, long-term lease for the Navy at their Bronson property. What is the status of that? Because I did find out from Stefan, I do have about 7 million in my discretionary loss. I believe he's also provided that information to each commissioner, what they actually have. What is the status? What is it going to cost to get some presence down there to help those people? Because my understanding is the volunteer firefighters from across the bridge are not reliable. They're not showing up for calls. So where are we at on that? That's an important issue in District 1.
The last I heard, we were still waiting on the Navy to get back with us for the land swap, for us to get the property at the Southwest Sportsplex. When we get that land, and we was looking at putting a modular, something temporary in there, that way we
Okay.
get a company out of that area.
Who's running point on that for us, and who is the Navy counterpart working that real estate deal? I know a few of those guys. I'd love to know, and if I can assist, I'd love to. Because those deals take a long time sometimes. We
They
did
do.
it, Sheriff, when I was actually doing that function as a contractor on the base, and got them the permission to utilize part of Bronson for their driver training. So, but to get an enhanced use multi-year lease requires Jacksonville. Who from the county is running point on that? Because I really want to start cracking the whip on that.
I believe Stacy was helping us out with that and was taking the point on that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, if we could, I'd like to get an update on that. All right, Wes, I'm going to give you, Eric, thank you so much, man. A lot of good information we passed today. Great stuff. Wes, any final thoughts today before we cut this thing off? I appreciate you guys going along with me.
No, not really. I just, I think in the county, we're tracking along pretty good. I think things are improving. I think morale's ticking up a little bit in some areas. And I say it all the time, I'm optimistic. So I don't think you can do these kind of jobs without being optimistic.
No,
So
it's incredibly tough.
That we're gonna be very successful as we move through the remainder of the year.
Right on. Eric, any final thoughts on public safety?
I'm very happy the direction we're going in. It's a good positive direction. We have really good people here. There's a lot of good men and women here that work and serve the citizens and do a good job day in and day out. So no, I'm just really optimistic, and I do have a good group. I do have a good management staff. So as Wes said, one person can't do it alone. So you got to have good people around you. And I really do. And I appreciate the opportunity.
No, thank you guys. Well, thanks for the great work, the hard work. Thanks for spending your time with me this morning. And I look forward to talking to you guys next month too. But thanks for taking the full hour and really, we were able to really flesh out some of the issues and really spread the conversation out and really dig deep. So thanks for your time this morning. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll be seeing you all tomorrow at the Cow. Have a good one.